the signs of separation. How, in their journey to various different parts of the country, Malli and Valli uncover the signs hidden in everyday life. Hello everyone, welcome to the Oliveboard platform. My name is Antara Bhayan and we are discussing the class 6th science textbook, which is Curiosity. This is a chapter-wise discussion. Till now we have done till chapter number 8, which is a journey through states of water. Today we are going to discuss chapter number 9, which is methods of separation in everyday life. So let us begin our journey from traveling to the first location during the summer vacation along with Malli and his sister Valli, and let us go to our first stop, which is Haryana. Now what happens is when they reaches Haryana, they see that there are farm culture which is going on. Then somebody is working at the farm, somebody is preparing the meal in a specific way, say for example using different small little household tools. But before going into that story, let us see the poet's wisdom for the journey. Just like winnowing makes the husk blow away while retaining the grains, similarly sages let the virtues stay while discarding the vices. So, just like this particular beautiful poem or these lines, let us begin our journey from here. Now, that brings us to the question that what is winnowing and what are the different methods of separation. So, the first stop was Haryana, the heartland of the harvest. They visit their Nani's home and here they find that there are large fields and work is going on everywhere. People are enjoying doing their part of the job. There are grains everywhere, they are being piled, and when at the time of cooking, what they do is they remove these small stones and husk which may come into the grain before cooking so that they are fit for cooking. How do they do it? If you have seen in the villages or even in the cities also, if we buy that say plain unpolished rice, we just go through it once and remove any kind of stones or any kind of husk particles if it is there. So this method of simply removing by the hand is known as hand picking. Hand picking is the method of picking substances from a mixture by the hand. Now obviously it will be easier to identify if it has a different color, size or shape. From rice, if we are taking out small stones, most of the time they are also white in color, but they are say circular in shape and not like the rice grains itself. So it is easy to identify, not that easy though actually, but it can be removed. Now the application that can be done if you have ever purchased the rice directly from the farmer or if you've got those say any kind of material which you actually need to separate a little bit, say in case of palak also we separate the aged leaves from the leaves which are very tender and soft to eat, right? Now let us see what other methods of separation they get to learn at the fields. Number one, let us see what is threshing and then we will see what is winnowing. You can see there are two females and they are taking the bunches of the say whatever wheat or whatever rice and they are beating it against a wooden log. Now what will happen here, the grains which are sticking to this husk, it will fall down and the husk will remain. Now this method of actually threshing someone, not someone, but here the husk itself. So this method of, as it literally means threshing, it is known as threshing. So the farmers, what they will do, they will beat it against a wooden log, as a result of which the grains will be separated. Threshing is the process of beating stalks to separate the grains from them. Now, what is winnowing? If we look at winnowing, you can see a farmer is standing at a greater height comparatively, and then he is just, slowly letting the grains pour down. What happens in this case? Most of the time, these grains will be mixed with the husk, right? So the husk will separate as the husk is lighter in weight. So it will go to a little bit more distance and it will form a pile there, and since the grains they have more weight comparatively, so they will fall down at a shorter distance and then they can be separated. Now, winnowing is the method that uses wind, as the name indicates. Wind, can you see wind is hidden here without the D? It uses wind or blowing air to separate heavier components like the grains and the lighter ones like the husk. So as the husk is lighter, it will go to a distance. As the grains are heavier, it will fall there itself. All right. So threshing literally means threshing. So threshing is same. So that you will remember. And for remembering winnowing, just remember wind, but the D is not there. So if the direction of air or the wind is like this, then the husk will fly away to more distance and then the grains will fall immediately. For this, bamboo tray can be used. Here we call it soup. In different languages, we use local terms or local languages for this. Salinga is the word that we call. Saloni is the word that we call in Assamese. You let me know what it is called in your language. Salni or Saloni is in my language. Now there is more to know. Technological developments has happened and now there are threshers. Now these threshers, what are they? They are basically threshing machines which helps in separating this stalks and the husk. But in the case of the machines, they will remove this completely, right? They will remove the husk completely from the say grains. Though in this case also a little bit amount may be left, but otherwise it does both the job of threshing and winnowing, right? Moving ahead, you must have seen this in the day-to-day life. While say getting the wheat ready to make it into a dough, we let it pass through a shave. This simple thing is known as shaving. Now, in case of shaving, we will also see that nowadays, though the atta or the wheat flour or the maida flour, all-purpose wheat flour that we are using, it does not say contains husk as such, but still while baking also this gives an air gap effect as well, which leads to better say food product, which are our final products. So anyway, this is being done here for separation of any kind of stone particles, etc., since the size of the shave will be such that the wheat or our flour will come down on the plate and the rest of the things will stay in the sheaf itself. All right. Now let us try and attempt this question. After threshing, the grains are mixed with large amount of light husk. All right. When we were threshing it, it is mixed with some husk as well. What method which uses wind or blowing air is traditionally used to separate the heavier grains from the lighter husk? Now, please note that the wind word is there. I asked you to remember the trick that only D is not there. So, is it filtration? Is it threshing? Is it winnowing? Or is it shaving? So, already it has been said that they are using the wind for it, and the threshing is already done, so it is nothing but winnowing. So the correct answer is winnowing. You can also provide the answers in the comment box. A farmer has just harvested wheat and needs to separate the grains from the stalks. As we know, in the stalk itself the grains are there, so he has harvested and he needs to separate it. According to the source material, what is the name of the process involved in beating the stalks? So it literally means you are beating them, you are threshing them. So what is the answer? It is threshing. When is the hand picking method most convenient and practical for separation? So if we want to do hand picking of, say, just before cooking the rice, we want to separate the small little stones if it is there, then what method is used and when it is used? Hand picking is used, but how to use it? In which condition? When the quantity of the unwanted substance is very large, when the unwanted particles are few and differ in size, color and shape. So we have seen that when the unwanted particles are few, little bit of hard work we have to do, and the size and the color is different, so it will be easy to identify and we will be able to separate it through hand picking, right? Next question, threshing, that answer is shifted here. Now let us come to their next stop. After visiting Haryana, they went to Ahmedabad. Now what happens in Ahmedabad? In Haryana, they learned about threshing and winnowing, which were used in case of, say, making any kind of food, right? Now in Ahmedabad, they visited the Sabarmati Ashram. So what is there in Sabarmati Ashram? There is the history and the journey of the Dandi March. So they came to know about Dandi March. Dandi March is also known as Salt Satyagraha. Salt Satyagraha. But how is salt made? Salt is made from the simple seawater, and that is the process of making it. More about that in a while. But meanwhile, about shaving, we have seen that sieving is nothing but it will just pass through this. It will separate the flour which we want, and what is the remaining mixture? It will be left here. It separates solid components of a mixture that have different particle size. Fine particles will pass through the sieves holes while larger ones will remain there itself. On a larger scale, it can also be seen in the construction sites. At different construction sites, we see these kind of big sieve through which the sand passes, and then the pebbles etc. or the stones etc. they are separated like this. Alright, so this is the use. Now, one more question here. If you have a mixture of sand and small pebbles and you want to separate them to use the sand for a project, which method described in the text would be most efficient? So, what is the method we will use? Hand picking? No. In only few substances we do that. Winnowing is using the wind. So, it is your nothing but sieving. So, C is the correct answer. What is decantation? So if in a, say, glass container, you can see this clearly. If there is some solid, say sand for this case, and then there is water. So what will happen? The sand will drop here and the water will remain here. So the sand has sedimented. This we will call as sedimentation. After this, we want this clear water. And what we do is we simply pick it up and pour it in another vessel where the water is kept separately or poured. This simple task is known as decantation. Now coming to the signs of evaporation. What happens in case of the making of salt or salt harvesting by the coasts? As you can see like this in this picture, the salt is harvested in a similar manner. So at Sabarmati Ashram, they already came to know about how salt is obtained. Now, if we will look into this process, it is the process of evaporation. Evaporation is the process where this liquid that is there or the water that is there along with the salt, it will become vapor and it will go up, and what we will be left out is with the salt. So this is the process. Evaporation is the process where a liquid converts into its vapor, leaving behind any dissolved solids. You can do any experiment for that. You can take sand, little bit of water, take very little water, it will take a lot of time, and boil it. You will see after some time you will be left with the sand only. The same can be done with salt also, though in the first case Sand is not, it does not dissolve in water. In the second case, salt will dissolve in the water. But in both the ways, after evaporating it for some time, you will see that only in the second case also that the salt is left behind. So leaving behind the dissolved solids. To get the salt, seawater is kept in shallow pits. So what do you mean by shallow pits? Shallow talks, shallow pits. That means that which does not have any depth. So if somebody is saying shallow talks, it means just does not make sense. Just you're talking because you have to talk. They do not have any depth. Okay. So that is your say shallow. If some explanation does not have any depth in it, if anything does not have any depth in it, we simply use the word shallow. Okay. So they have made this shallow pits. And from here, the sun will evaporate. Since they do not have any depth, they have increased the surface area as we can see. So what will happen? The sun's heat will evaporate the water, leaving behind the salt crystals. So this is there. Now, the same can be applied in terms of some kind of paintings in the cloth, or making some art, or making some designs. What can be done is you can see that this solution has been added to, you can add it to any surface. Oh, I remember there was this ink thing when I was in school. So the ink pen, they used to throw the ink in a white page, and they used to fold it and do like this. And what will happen? That drop of ink, when, or that a few drops of ink which used to be scattered, if the page will be folded and it will be rubbed like this, then there will be a design. So that also we have seen, right? Have you noticed white patches on dark clothes after sweating in the summer? You may have noticed this for sure. So there's the sweat which evaporating and leaving the salt behind from the human body, because the human body will sweat, and once this sweat will be evaporated, it will cause the cooling. Evaporation always cause cooling, but what is left behind on the cloth is nothing but the salt. Now, in case of silk clothes, if with that sweat itself, somebody will keep it like that as it is folding, and then after a few years also, if you'll wash it, it can actually be damaged from that particular region. So it needs to get dried before folding. Anyways, so what is Sabarmati Ashram famous for? We all know by now, at least, if not in the history classes. Coming to the question. The text explains that to obtain salt from seawater, water is left in shallow pits under the sun. What process is primarily at work here? So we have seen that the primary process which is used here is nothing but evaporation. Now, this is why if you will buy these spices straight from the Kerala wholesale market, those spices will be different than purchasing from many other local, say, stores nearby your home. Most of the time, maybe you have found some good shop, that is a different thing. So what happens is, in town, when I visited Kerala, there they had shown me this long, or which is known as clove, which is obtained from a flower bud. That is a question from biology. If you want to, attend this biology PYQ session, it is every Tuesday at 1 p.m. and the chemistry PYQ session is every Wednesday at 1 p.m. So anyways, this clove, they had given that, okay, you check this if it is the same, or if you find like this, and that clove with the nail here somewhere in between, we had to do like this, okay? And you will see that some oil is clearly visible. And if you will buy from this, say, somebody who is trying to cheat you, then there also you can get it wrong. But if you will buy from the wholesale market, from a genuine place, from where the locals buy, you will see that even after 2 years, or even after a few years, when you are checking this log, whether it still has the oil or not, you will see, yes, it still does has the oil content, which is not the case in many nearby local, say, vendors who they say that they remove the oil and then use it. I'm not sure about that, but it is there. Now, what causes this difference? In the Spice Garden tour, we got to learn that the difference is caused by the way how it is dried in the sun. Though not sure about whether they actually remove the oil and then sell it in the market, some people, but this is what is there in your textbook also, that if you dry them in the heated sun, in the completely sunny day, in complete heat, in that case, what will happen? Everything will be evaporated. So it will not be the same as drying them in the shade. Machine dryers are used nowadays, but again, what kind of and to what intensity, that is also important. So in traditional Indian system of holistic health and medicine called Ayurveda, herbs are herbs. What are herbs? Herbs, these are basically parts of plants. These are prescribed as remedies. These ingredients like roots, leaves, flowers or seeds, they are used, and there are various medicinal plants which are used. How they dry them? They dry in the shade. And when they dry in the shade, by this evaporation of excess water will happen, but the medicinal properties will stay there itself. So shade drying is very important. Even in terms of spices also, what I learned from the guide is that they dry it in the shade, or in machine, in this dryers also, the proper thing is used. The proper, say, gradient concentration of temperature is used. Now, if we look into the next stop of their journey from Haryana to Ahmedabad, their next stop was at Puducherry. They went to Puducherry. Now, when they visited Puducherry, it was their paternal grandmother's house, and it was the tea time. But the story is apart. What they see here is in the evening time, the way they were separating the tea from the tea leaves, or from what they don't want to drink up and what they want to drink. Okay. So this was done simply by the method of, what is it called? It is called the method of filtration. If we are using similar to a sieve only, but if you're using, pouring this liquid and the filtration has happened, the liquid has fell down and the tea leaves, they are on top of it, this process is known as filtration. Also, if this, say, whatever you are using for removing it, as kind of a sieve, if that has some holes in it, or some holes is developed over a period of time, in that case, some tea grains will fall down. So while drinking the tea, you can taste it, but that does not feel good. So what to do in that case? Probably you can use a piece of cotton cloth, like we remove, say, paneer from the mixture, right? So like that can be used. So let us look what are these two processes. We can use more such processes. Say, number one is filtration. So since decantation isn't perfect for tea, say, I told you about decantation, remember, there will be, say, sand. In this case, let us take rice. There is rice, there is water. While washing the rice, we will simply remove the water and keep the rice, right? So this was nothing but decantation. So that you cannot use for tea, because some amount of tea leaves will go inside still. So what to do? We use a strainer. Yes, this is the word. I was using the word sieve, but it is a strainer. Sieve is in case of the solid, that is a channi, that is different. And this channi is different. This is the strainer. All right. So filtration separates insoluble solids from a liquid by passing the mixture through a filter. As you can see here, the solids residue, they are trapped, they cannot go down, and the liquid, they will filter and they will pass through. This is something which is done on our day-to-day life. We all know about it. This is the first thing in the morning. So filters are everywhere, from cloth and filter paper. Now, have you heard about filter paper? We will see about that. All the tea bags that we use, the tea bags, the instant tea bags that we use, which is put in the hot tea, and then after some time it is removed. So what is that process known as? That is also similar to filter paper only. That is also a type of filter paper only through which this process happens. Now, even if you want to do the experiment of muddy water, if you repeatedly we will pass it through filter paper, it will also come out as clean water. What are fishing nets? Fishing nets which are used for catching the fishes, these are also nothing but a way they have filtered out the water, and the fish remains in, what remained in strainer was tea, what remained inside the fishing net is the fish. Now, what are sedimentation and decantation? If I am washing the rice, or if I took a sand and water mixture, the rice, if I'll keep it for some time, the rice will settle down. Even after washing in 1 second also, the rice will settle down. That is nothing but sedimentation. All right. So what we see here is, if the heavier insoluble tea leaves, if say this pot is kept as it is for some time and the heavier tea leaves will settle down, that is also sedimentation. Or if say we take sand and water and the sand settle down, that is also sedimentation. So it is basically settling down of the heavier material. All right. That is, they will sit on the bottom of the vessel or wherever we have kept it. Now, then what will happen? Slowly after that, the next step is to separate it, so that rice will remain, water will separate. This rest of the hard, say, part, not compared to the tea, the solid particles, the tea grains, they will remain and the tea will separate. The sand will remain, the water will separate. This is known as decantation. So these are used in the kitchen in the day-to-day life as well. All right. Now let us have a look at this diagram. This is a filter paper and this is a funnel. This was the first experiment that children normally do at school. So this is how they will place it on the funnel, and if muddy water is passed, this is a tripod, 3 legs tripod, arthropods, remember, joint legs, so tripods, and then in the tripod they have set the funnel, and in a conical flask, this muddy water, it will run down and it will become comparatively cleaner water. Though the first round will not give you absolutely clear water, but if you repeat the process, it will eventually give you the clean water. Now, what are tea bags made up of? Tea bags were initially made of soft cloth like silk, but now can you use real silk for tea bags? It's very costly, because it could hold the tea leaves and let water pass through. Silk was strong and did not fall apart. Silk is the strongest natural fiber. For parachute ropes also, what is used is the silk threads are used to make those ropes. And even if in the hot water also they will stay like that. Later they started using muslin and gauze and these things. Eventually they begin using filter paper. So nowadays most tea bags, what you find is filter paper. If you will try to dip it multiple times, or try to put it inside your whatever grams you are cooking, then also sometimes it may break upon such things. Now let us see this question. If you have muddy water in a glass and you let it sit undisturbed until the mud settles at the bottom, what is the process of the heavier particles settling called? This is known as sedimentation. If they ask you and then you separate the water, in that case it will be decantation, but in this case it is sedimentation. Now the final stop. They went to Haryana, they went to Ahmedabad, then they went to Puducherry, and finally they are here at Bhopal. So what happens in Bhopal is they will, again visit their relatives, and they will see that, as you see in this diagram, they are removing the butter, or they're taking out the butter. They're making the butter in this process. So the butter will float on top of it, since butter is light, since just like oil floats in case of oil floating in water. So similarly here butter will float on top and they can separate it. This is known as churning. What is this known as? This is known as CHURNING. This is known as churning. Okay. So this can be seen at various places. It is done at home also. If somebody has, say, cows or if they have the buffalo, then you will see this process happening. Churning is the process of agitating a liquid like curd or cream to separate lighter components from heavier ones. Lighter butter will float on top, leaving the buttermilk behind. In present day, in our kitchen, we have this, what we call, for making the ghee we use, no? For baking also we use. How come I forgot the beater? We have this beaters, no? Yeah. So we have this beater. This beater, it will go round and round like this, and then the all the from which we make the ghee, that will be separated, and the buttermilk is separated, right? So that is if it is used in this way, and if say the process is churning, and initially even at present also, for say large quantities, churning is done. For large quantities, this machine will keep on working and it will get tired, but this is the way that we use. Then from there, when they went to Shillong, in Shillong, they had seen that a carpenter accidentally drops nails into sawdust. Now what to do? Will they keep on picking one nail separately? So they introduced him to magnets. And then what magnet does is a magnet will separate the iron. This we had seen. There was a complete separate chapter about magnets. So magnets will, the iron will stick to the magnet and it will be very easy to separate them. Magnetic separation uses a magnet to separate magnetic substances like iron from whatever is non-magnetic, or from whatever things that will not stick to the magnet. So this is the picture of churning. Now let us have a look at the question. In the story, Malli and Valli help a carpenter who dropped iron nails into sawdust, into the sawdust, that is whatever wood work he was doing maybe, and the dust that was left behind. They use a magnet to quickly separate the nails. This method works because the difference in which property between iron and sawdust, it's that sawdust is non-magnetic and iron is magnetic. So which property is this? This is nothing but the magnetic properties. Similarly, when in case of any scrapyard, in the scrap yards, what is done? They use big machines, or they use the, say, JCBs, which are specialized, or that is the name of the company, any company that you want to use. But the moral of the story is they will have a big magnet. This in internationally also, from many water bodies, for separating the metal particles, they use this. Especially in water, they cannot see also, so it's very easy to use this method. So the trick here is that they will use these machines which has giant magnets or powerful magnets, and they will be able to hold this iron material or the magnetic substances, and they will be able to separate the iron from the rest of the things. Now, to be very powerful, that means what kind of magnets are there? These are the electromagnets. These electromagnets are fitted to any company cranes, okay, and then they can remove the irons or the metals which are magnetic property. This process allows valuable materials like iron to be efficiently recycled, because we should reduce, reuse and recycle, because natural resources are limited. So what all we have studied? Let us have a quick recap. We have studied hand picking, which is separation by the hand itself, because the size, color or shape of what we want to separate is different. In the next stop, they studied threshing, which is nothing but beating of the stalk against a wood, or say a hard wood will help the straws to be separated and the grains to be separated, because it got some good threshings. In case of winnowing, the word itself is saying that wind is used to separate. The husk is lighter, it will go away and fall. The grains are heavier, it will fall there itself. Next is sedimentation, where the heavier particles will settle, be it in case of washing in the kitchen when we are leaving anything to be wet for some time and after that we want to cook, or be it washing rice, pulses, etc. Or even if you keep simple sand also, then also it will be seen. It is not miscible, right? So it will be seen there also. The heavier particles will settle and the water will be on top. If we remove this water from one to another, then this pouring is nothing but decantation. And finally, filtration is when the solid will be separated from the liquid. How? By using of a filter paper or any other method for filtration that we want to use. What is sieving? Sieving is nothing but when a sieve is used for separating the solids from other solids, and whatever size of grains we require, that size will be the sieve and the bigger size will remain there itself. Evaporation is nothing but when the liquid will convert into vapor and it will say bye-bye. Whatever is left is the solid. Churning is agitating liquid to separate its components so that we can say make ghee, buttermilk. If you want the buttermilk, whatever is left is the buttermilk. If you want the butter, then you find it here. If you will put it in the vessel, and finally if you want to remove more things from that, then you will get the ghee. So like that, different stages, different things will become. Okay. Next is the magnetic separation, which uses the magnetic property to separate the magnets from what are non-magnetic property items. A mixture of oil and water is best separated using decantation. As we have seen that decantation was used in which case? In case of say sand, rice and water, this kind of mixture. Okay, sand and water, rice and water. A mixture of oil and water is best separated using decantation. What is the underlying principle that allows this method to work? So you will have to remove the top layer of oil which is here. You have to pour it into another container and the water will remain here. It is because oil and water have different colors? No. In hand picking, however, different colors may help. Oil evaporates faster than water. No, you are not lighting up a gas and doing anything here. It's not fractional distillation or something like that. Oil separates. Oil particles are larger than water particles, or oil is insoluble and lighter than water, forming a separate layer on top. So the correct answer here is because oil is lighter, it will float and then you can separate it. But because of this, again, when oil is involved, water cannot be used as same property. Because of this, water cannot be used to put away that fire, because it will not let the fire go away. It will only increase the fire. It will, spread it across that place where fire has happened, because this oil can float on top of water and it will carry the fire to new places. All right. So the next question here that we want to see is, in Madhya Pradesh, Malli and Valli see a picture of a lady separating butter from curd. Remember? So what is that process known as? That process is known as, we have to say, she was using a churner. This separation method is nothing but, we have seen, it is churning. It is similar to, in modern day, what we use is your beaters. The process of using a strainer to separate tea leaves from prepared tea is a common example of which separation technique? We say it is nothing but filtration, because the solid tea leaves, it stayed in the strainer itself and the tea, it separated and it came to the cup, right? So it is nothing but filtration. So separation we have studied and different methods of separation we have studied. However, there is one concern which we would like to note, that when they were picking up the fishes using this separation methods, they also see that there are some plastics in that. So this plastic is a major problem, and this is also destroying our ecosystem and causing harm to our ecosystem. These plastics can go into the fish's mouth. It can enter the environment like this, and by biomagnification process, say if a small fish will eat some pollutant, it will increase in the large fish and it will go on like that. One, they will die, or it will say the pollutants will increase in the process, so much so by the time it will reach the human, it will be fatal, right? So these principles are used in the day-to-day life, and we should ensure that the environment is neat and clean. This brings us to the end of the trip we started, and through this journey of these kids, we had gone to various methods of separation and we had studied them, right? So I think that will be all for this particular session, and I'll see you in the next class. The playlist is already there on the YouTube channel. Please consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the like button so that I continue with this NCERT series. And from class 6, we are able to continue till class 10. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.